Apathy. Noun. Lack of interest or concern. The greatest obstacle was not anger but apathy, so the organizers told specific stories, knocked on doors, and made the stakes feel immediate and local. Pragmatism. Noun. A focus on what works in practice rather than what sounds ideal. Her pragmatism showed when the storm turned. She lashed the tarp, moved the herbs under the eaves, and skipped the argument about whose turn it was to fetch wood. Ambition. Noun. A strong wish to reach a hard goal. His ambition was to learn the guitar well enough to play by the campfire. Complacency. Noun. Calm self-satisfaction that can blind you to risk. Complacency settled over the crew until the first loose bolt rang against the deck like a small warning bell. Transient. Adjective. Lasting only a short time before changing. The cherry blossoms were transient. A brief pale cloud along the canal before rain thinned the petals into a pink drift on the water. Garner. Verb. To collect or gain something through effort. Over months of steady work, she managed to garner support from neighbors who had once shrugged at every community project. Elucidate. Verb. To explain something clearly so it becomes easier to understand. During the budget hearing, the treasurer elucidated how the maintenance fund interacted with reserves, using plain charts until even the skeptical homeowners nodded. Vacillate. Verb. To keep changing your mind or position instead of deciding firmly. She vacillated between two paint colors for weeks, taping swatches to the door at different hours until the light settled the argument on its own. Discernment. Noun. The ability to judge well, especially in subtle situations. Choosing fabric for curtains took discernment. In the shop, the samples looked alike until she held them beside the window and watched the grain change. Serenity. Noun. A peaceful calm that feels steady and unbroken. The lake held a rare serenity at dawn, and she watched the pale mist hover above the water as if it had nowhere else to be. Obstreperous. Adjective. Noisy and hard to control, often in a defiant way. The obstreperous puppy knocked over the water bowl and slid across the kitchen tile. Refute. Verb. To prove that a claim is wrong. The analyst refuted the rumor with transaction records, and the conversation shifted from speculation to accountability. Ephemeral. Adjective. Brief as a breath, gone almost as soon as it appears. Morning frost on the pumpkin vines was ephemeral. Sun erased it before breakfast. Detrimental. Adjective. Causing harm or damage. Skipping sleep felt detrimental after the third night, and he could hear his own thoughts turning sluggish as the screen glowed too bright in the dark room. Fervent. Adjective. Showing strong and heartfelt feeling. She gave a fervent defense of the local clinic, her voice low but steady as the waiting room filled with the rustle of winter coats. Proponent. Noun. A person who supports an idea or cause. As a proponent of public transit, he arrived early to the council meeting with a folded map, a thermos of coffee, and a row of notes covered in tidy handwriting. Wanton. Adjective. Reckless and without moral restraint, often causing needless harm. The storm did wanton damage, ripping shingles off roofs that had stood for decades. Tangential. Adjective. Only loosely connected to the main thread. His tangential tale of a ferry ride entertained us, but it never touched the recipe we were writing down. Improvise. Verb. To create or adjust something quickly using what is available. When the projector failed, the instructor had to improvise, turning the lesson into a discussion that still met the learning objectives. Fastidious. Adjective. Very careful about small details and standards. Fastidious about presentation. She polished each glass until the candlelight looked clean and steady, then aligned the place cards with a ruler. Ubiquitous. Adjective. Present or found almost everywhere. By the time they arrived, the ubiquitous scent of roasted coffee had drifted through the entire market, pulling people toward the small kiosk. Engender. Verb. To cause a feeling, situation, or condition to develop. The mentor's quiet praise engendered confidence, and soon the intern volunteered ideas without glancing down at the floor. Derivative. Adjective. Imitative, adding little that is new. The painting felt derivative of a famous sunset, though the brushwork showed real patience. Foment. Verb. To stir up trouble or strong feeling. Gossip fomented a feud between neighbors who had shared a fence for 20 years. Effrontery. Noun. Shameless boldness that shocks polite people. He had the effrontery to ask for a raise the week after he missed 3 deadlines. Stoical. Adjective. Enduring difficulty without outward complaint. He sat through the long delay with a stoical patience, hat in his lap and boots darkened by the slush he had tracked in from the platform. Salient. Adjective. Most noticeable or important in a situation. The most salient issue was not the new feature list, but the rising support backlog that threatened to erode trust. Malfeasance. Noun. Wrongdoing by a person in an official position. Auditors flagged malfeasance when funds moved with no paper trail. Deference. Noun. Polite respect for someone else's judgment. Out of deference to her grandmother, she tasted the soup first. Circumspect. Adjective. Careful to avoid risks or saying too much. He was circumspect during the interview, answering warmly but pausing to choose words that would not betray colleagues who were not there to defend themselves. Anachronism. Noun. A person or thing that seems to belong to another time. A payphone on the pier felt like an anachronism next to tourists filming gulls on their phones. Impeccable. Adjective. Without mistakes or faults. Her impeccable timing during the debate kept the discussion focused, even when the audience tried to steer it toward side arguments. Ambivalent. Adjective. Having mixed feelings about something. She felt ambivalent about moving, excited by the new job but uneasy about leaving the neighborhood where she had built a steady routine. Tactful. Adjective. Careful not to offend while still being honest. He offered tactful feedback, focusing on the work's impact and proposing alternatives instead of criticizing the person. Erroneous. Adjective. Wrong because it is based on a mistake. The report was erroneous, and once the numbers were checked against the raw data, the confident conclusion collapsed into a simple correction. Quell. Verb. To put an end to something, especially by using force or firm action. Volunteers handed out water and blankets to quell the panic after the lights failed, speaking in calm voices until the backup generator finally coughed to life. That's everything for this session. If this helped you, subscribe for more. See you next time.